بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, in this session we start talking about what we need to observe in the 7 years after 7 years of early stage of child's life, so from 8 to 14. In the first 7 years we said that is the time for developing love, respect, self-honoring, and getting free and kind of unlimited decisions. The child thinks that he is the master. The parents treat the child as if the child is master, and the child thinks that he can, ask and order and command. In the second 7 years is the time of learning and developing virtues. So when it comes to Mahdawi Tarbiyah, in the 7 years after the first 7 years, we need to make sure that a child who has already developed love and self-respect is now able to base his love for Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif on a firm foundation of beliefs. So teaching aqaid, especially knowing imams, and in particular knowing imam of our time, is very important in this time. This is the time that children go to school or do homeschooling. They can get engaged in serious learning. So let us discuss this. Maybe we need 2 sessions at least to discuss the 7 years from 8 to 14. Some of the characteristics of this period of life is that, number 1, this is the time for learning and obtaining proper manners. Learning in general and proper manners in practical way of life, like honesty, like truthfulness, kindness, being organized, etc. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, according to a hadith in Al-Kafi, said, وَيَتَعَلَّمُ الْكِتَابَ 7 سِنِينَ. In the first 7 years, as I said, learning should be limited to something that the child would enjoy. If you can teach a child in this first 7 years in the way that the child takes it like a game, like a play, enjoying, that's fine. But to put child under restriction and strict discipline, that from this time to this time you have to sit in this place and learn this, you will be examined, you have to do this assignment, as something that the child feels not happy and feels it's imposed. This is not helpful. But in the 7 years after that, it's time for learning. يَتَعَلَّمُ الْكِتَابَ 7 سنين, learns the book of Allah for 7 years, meaning from 8 to 14. Or in another hadith, وَيُؤَدَّبُ 7 سنين. This is in Rasail al-Shia by the late Sheikh al-Amali. The previous one, يَتَعَلَّمُ الْكِتَابَ 7 سنين, was in Al-Kafi by Sheikh al-Kulayni. This one, يُؤَدَّبُ 7 سنين, is in Rasail al-Shia. يُؤَدَّبُ from adab. Addaba yu'addabu ta'diban means to teach etiquette, good etiquette, manners, good practices. So this is the time for learning, and it's very golden and fertile time. When they learn something at this age, they will more likely be able to preserve it. And as we said before, in that famous hadith, we said that وَعَبْدٌ 7 سنين, in the second 7 years, the child is like a servant. So the child is obedient, is listening, and it's the time to use this for helping them to learn things that they need for this world and the hereafter. The child must learn in this period, in addition to secular subjects, Islamic thought, Tawheed, Nubuwwah, Ma'ad, in particular Imamah, and Imamah of Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. So the first characteristic of this period is that this is the time for learning and acquiring adab. The second is that this is the time for establishing moral virtues. So when children get good ethical advice from parents at home, from teachers at school, from media, whatever is available to them. Inshallah, we discussed that we shouldn't make everything available to them, but what we decide it's proper. If they get the same message, mother and father, talk and practice honesty, truthfulness. The child never finds them lying, telling any lies. In the school, he finds the same. On TV, or I don't know if there is a book, there is newspaper, there is magazine, anything useful that is made available for them. In the stories, they find the same message. Then this child naturally would develop such qualities. Even maybe they don't notice. They don't need to, plan or force themselves. When you are in good environment with good contacts and everyone is, committed to morality, you yourself naturally become a moral person. And this period is very important. Especially you should appreciate the early years. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 even. Because when we get to teenage, the child is in a very difficult situation. It's sometimes like a boiling kettle. When the child is physically growing and reaching the age of puberty, when emotions are very high, when the child is very sensitive. The child even has difficulty with understanding, the growth in his body or her body, especially, when girls, go through, many changes in their body and their appearance. So it's very difficult time when someone becomes a teenager, wants to learn to be independent. So we need to utilize early years as soon as possible. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is very important. The rest are very important, but by the passage of time, your choices become more limited. If you have proper work in these early years, then inshallah in teenage also you can also be successful. So as long as there is peace, there is calmness in the child, you should use this to teach them proper things and especially teach them virtues and train them to be virtuous. One of the things that we have to consider also is that we need to be teaching them in a gradual way, with a good pace, not too fast, not too slow. Look at this beautiful hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam about how Imams taught their children about fasting and what they teach us also to do. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, إِنَّا نَأْمُرُ الصِّبْيَانَنَا إِذَا كَانُوا بَنِي 7 سِنِينَ بِمَا أَطَاقُوا مِنْ صِيَامِ الْيَوْمِ. We ask our children when they become 7 to fast the day as much as they can. فإن كان إلا نصف النهار أو أكثر من ذلك أو أقل. Maybe they can fast up to midday, maybe they fast before midday, maybe afterwards. Whatever they can. فإذا غلبهم العطش والغرث أفطروا. When then they become too thirsty, too hungry, so that thirst or hunger, is dominant, then they can break their fast. حتى يتعبد الصوم ويطيق. It should be maybe يتعبدوا الصوم, till they get used to fasting. So we don't say you must fast like adults, but we say you start from Fajr as long as you can. Maybe the first few days they can less, or first few weeks, but then it becomes better. Next year becomes even better. So by the time they become, for example, 15 for boys, they have plenty of time to get used to it. Then Imam alayhi salam says, فَمُرُوا صِبْيَانَكُمْ إِذَا كَانُوا بَنِي 7 سِنِينَ. بَنِي 9 سِنِينَ بِالصِّيَامِ. Imam said we teach them to fast from 7 years, when they are 7 years old. You do it from 9 years old. This is for boys, because as Bani means sons. So teach your boys, ask your boys to start fasting from 9 years, when they're 9 years old, from the 9th year of their life. Girls, for example, they have to start fasting if they are capable, healthy, doesn't harm them, when they finish 9 years. But for them also, they can start from earlier, maybe from 7 years, for example, they can start getting used to it as much as they can. فَمُرُوا صِبْيَانَكُمْ إِذَا كَانُوا بَنِي 9 سِنِينَ بِالصَّوْمِ مَا أَطَاقُوا مِنْ صِيَامٍ فَإِذَا غَلَبَهُمُ الْعَطَشُ أَفْطَرُوا. As long as they can, if thirst becomes too much for them, they break their fast. When they have not yet become mature, and it has not yet become obligatory. So you see, there must be a gradual process, not that we wait and all of a sudden we force them to fast. Or for prayer also, we should, before prayer, salat, ritual prayer become wajib for them, ask them to start practicing. Actually, many times children, very young children, love to say prayer because they love to do like their parents. The third point to observe is that a school environment and staff and other students and their families are also very important in these second 7 years. Normally, you cannot teach everything to your child at home. Normally, there can be exceptions. They can learn certain things at home, but they also need certain things to be learned from other people. Sometimes, even if you are a great teacher or a scholar, there are certain things that either out of haya you cannot say to your child. There are issues that it's better if they learn from someone else. Or sometimes learning needs discipline, needs being very serious. Sometimes they can be kind of I don't want to say punishment in the sense of physical punishment, but in the sense that, for example, if you don't do this, you have to do more homework, or you will be deprived of something. If parents want to do all these things, then their relation can be harmed. So some of the things is better to be done by a teacher, by someone else, or many things they can learn from other students. And when they are together, it gives them more momentum, it's less boring. It's many things you learn from the atmosphere. Even I remember when I went to Jose, I was just 17 years old. And although I had some lessons from Sheikh in Tehran, parallel to my high school, and I sat from second year. But I was very, unexperienced. And many things I learned from other students, from the atmosphere of the Jose. When I am eating with my, Jose friends, some of them were more than me in the Jose. At that time, for me, someone who was 3 years old, 3 years in the Jose, or 4 years in Jose was, very senior, very advanced. If someone was, 5 years in the Jose, was very advanced. Because anyway, for someone new, those people have much more experiences. So many things you can learn from atmosphere. In the school, in madrasa, you cannot teach every individual person everything. But if you manage to establish a good environment in the school, many things they learn automatically. If you spend in the early years of opening a madrasa or a school, establishing good environment, good ethos, then everyone else who joins will inshallah follow. So we need also some part of education in this second 7 years to be outside family. Especially they have to learn how to compete, how to collaborate, how to overcome challenges. I know that these years, more and more we are in need of sometimes homeschooling because we don't have proper schools, Islamic schools where we live. Many places of the world, Mu'mineen have this difficulty. There are not good schools, and they are very worried about their children because the way some public schools operate is not friendly with our values,
not only Muslim values, but even you know Abrahamic values. Even sometimes non-Abrahamic values, like even Hindus may have difficulties with some of the things which are taught in some schools, not just Muslims and Christians and Jews. So there is no school which is adequate, and you have to do maybe homeschooling. Okay, this is possible, and it's better than nothing, or better than just taking risks and sending your children to public schools. But make sure that you do it in the way that few families do it together, so that your children can play together, can learn together, can compete with each other. Yes, maybe sometimes even they fight each other. They shouldn't fight, but sometimes they fight. But this is not too bad, because then they learn that in future, if someone is, for example, trying to violate their rights, how to defend themselves, they need to learn the teamwork. So it's very important to create scenarios and environments that some children uh, learn together, do homework together, for example, play together, so that if there is no school, at least there is a cluster of families that do homeschooling together. So we need to bring Mahdawi Tarbiyah to this environment as well. Just having in family is not enough. Family and also the educational environment, if it is, for example, a school, if it is madrasa, etc. The third, this was the third. The fourth is, this is the time of reaching mental and physical puberty. So the child who was very active up to a few years ago now becomes very, sometimes sensitive, sometimes stressful, sometimes worried, sometimes some of them feel very shy, sometimes some of them become you know either, for example, isolating themselves, or they want to be more active, kind of a little bit aggressive, even with respect to parents. So we need to understand what they are going through and be aware of that, and prepare them for that, and be patient with them. Although teenagers who are properly trained, they still respect their parents, they love them, they listen to them, teachers, etc., community. But if you see that they are not as they used to be, that obedient or respectful, be patient, and inshallah this will be uh, coming to good end. Now, some practical tips for this age, the second 7 years, for having children who believe in Imam Mahdi. The first 7 years, they develop love for Imam. In the second 7 years, they develop faith and a strong belief. Number one, choose for them good teachers, good school, madrasa, good teachers. Sometimes one teacher in one school that is going to work with your child is more important than the rest of the school. Who is the teacher who is going to teach you? If there are few teachers, who are the teachers? Or sometimes there are people in the community that they teach the Quran, they teach different subjects, they teach akhlaq, they teach aqaid. I take my child maybe once, twice, 2 years, anyway, as much as needed and available to these good teachers to learn. It's very important. As we said before, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once saw some children and said, "Waylun لأولاد آخر الزمان من آبائهم." He had this in, I think, first session. فقيل يا رسول الله من آبائهم المشركين فقال لا من آبائهم المؤمنين لا يعلمونهم شيئا من الفرائض وإذا تعلموا أولادهم منعوهم ورضوا عنهم بعرض يسير من الدنيا فأنا منهم بريء وهم مني براء. Rasulullah warned about some parents in Akhirul Zaman that they don't do good for their children. People said, are these mushrikeen? Parents who are mushriks? No, parents who are believers. They don't teach their children what is farida, what is obligatory. They have to know from aqad, from akhlaq, ahkam. And if children manage to find a good teacher, a good source to learn, these parents say, don't learn, don't become too religious. Go and learn, secular subjects. Go and make, good job, more good money, etc. Rasulullah said, I am not with them, and they are not with me. I am distancing myself from them. And I'm bari'un minhum. So it's very important that parents actually have concern for religious education of their children. Sometimes people are happy to spend lots of money, make lots of efforts that they send their children to the best secular school or a school which has best academic results. But when it comes to religious education, they are not happy to spend money, they are not happy to spend time, they don't prioritize it. It is not acceptable. Imam Hussein alayhi salam had a child who learned Suratul Hamd from a teacher. As I said, sometimes even if you are a great teacher, you like your child to have also other people to teach for different reasons. Anyway, this child was taught by Abdul Rahman Sulami Suratul Hamd. Imam Hussein alayhi salam gave Abdul Rahman, when the child recited Suratul Hamd in front of Imam gave the teacher great gifts, lots of money, clothes, and filled his pocket. Some people were surprised why so much Imam is appreciating and presenting gifts to the teacher who has just taught Suratul Hamd. Imam alayhi salam said, what I give him cannot stand next to what he has taught my child. He has taught me, my child, Suratul Hamd. Can Suratul Hamd be put next to anything worldly? Imam is teaching us to appreciate religious teachers. Sometimes in community there are ladies, there are men who teach. We should not, think that they have to do it free of charge. Yes, they should offer services free of charge without expectation, but we need to support them. We need to give them gifts, hadiyah. And here we should not be miserly. We should be generous to show appreciation, to encourage them, so that also other people also go to this path. They should not do it for the sake of money, but we should also not stop giving money. We should support. As an example, you might have heard this already, but it's a very great example. One of the Umayyad caliphs was Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. He ruled for 2 years, 99, from 99 after Hijrah up to 101. He was the one who stopped this bad practice of cursing Amirul Mu'minin. Muawiyah had made this bad sunnah. Man sanna sunnatan sayyi'ah. He made this bad practice that on Mimbar, on the day of Jum'ah, Salatul Jum'ah, they used to curse Amirul Mu'minin. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz stopped this. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz stopped mistreating followers of Ahlul Bayt and progeny of Ahlul Bayt. Even tried to give Fadak back. Why? He's an Umayyad Caliph. One reason was because his father was someone who had respect for Amirul Mu'minin. It is said that one day his father on Mimbar in Medina was reciting khutbah, and when he reached the name of Amirul Mu'minin and wanted to curse him, as was the practice of Bani Umayyah, his tongue was not able to move. His color changed. And when his son asked him afterwards what happened, his father said, Amirul Mu'minin. Of course, he didn't say Amirul Mu'minin, maybe he said Ali. He said he had great services. And he mentioned some of the services. And he said, how my tongue can permit me to say bad things to such a person. As a child, this was one great lesson. Another thing is that he had a good teacher. So his father had chosen a good teacher for him. Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah ibn Atabat ibn Mas'ud. Ibn Mas'ud is a famous companion of the Prophet. So the teacher was a progeny of Ibn Mas'ud. And this person had love for Amir al-Mu'mineen. So Umar ibn Abdul Aziz says that one day I went to see my teacher. He was saying his prayer. I sat till he finished. He's this, a person who is from royal family. But the teacher is not hesitant to say something that this family may not like, but it's his duty to tell the truth. So he says, I went to see my teacher. He was saying prayer. I sat there till he finished his prayer, and then he said, how did you come to know that God is angry with the companions of the Prophet who were in Badr, who did the bay'ah of Ridwan, paid the allegiance of Ridwan, radiyallahu anil mu'minin, idh yubayi'unak. So he meant that Ali alayhi salam was a great companion of the Prophet. Even if you don't want to consider him as, for example, the successor to the Prophet, as Imam, at least he's one of the companions of the Prophet. And Allah was pleased with them. Those who took part in the battle of Badr, Badriyun, had great position in the time that situation was very difficult for Islam. They offered their life, everything for the sake of truth. So the teacher said, how did you come to know that Allah is no longer pleased with these people after he was pleased with them? He said, I have not heard that Allah is displeased with them. Then teacher said, then what are these things that I heard you say about Ali? And I told my teacher, I asked God to forgive me. And Umar ibn Abdul Aziz says, from that time I stopped cursing. Later, when he became himself Khalifa, he stopped this practice from the whole Muslim territory. So you see how a teacher can have good impact. And na'udhu, bad teacher also can have also bad impact. Bad school can have bad impact. Another story which is even maybe more amazing is the son of Yazid ibn Muawiyah. We know Muawiyah, we know Yazid, but maybe not everyone knows that Yazid had a son that he loved, and he called him Muawiyah after his father. He called his son Muawiyah. But this is Muawiyah ibn Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Muawiyah, the son of Yazid, the son of Muawiyah. So he was about 20 years old, very young. 20 years old to become Khalifa, it's very young age. And this is the time that he could, okay, now say, I am Khalifa, I have power, I have money, I can enjoy myself, do whatever I like. But the way he was educated, the tarbiyah that he had received, not from Yazid, not from even his mother, inshallah we'll talk about his mother, not from grandfather, not from the court and palace people, no, from good teacher. So he kept thinking, shall I continue being Khalifa? And the situation was so much, tight that if he was Khalifa surrounded by all those Umayyad agents and family, he had to do something similar. A little bit maybe he could improve. But as a person with 20 years old, what can you do? Or to leave Khilafah and power and position. So he started thinking, and then he gave a talk. He said to people and the officials, he said, my grandfather Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan opposed in Khilafah someone that was the best, and he had longer history in Islam than anyone else, someone who was brave, someone who had greatest knowledge, someone who was closest to the Prophet, who was cousin of the Prophet, who was wife of Fatima Zahra and father of Septain. But my grandfather Muawiyah fought against him, and you helped my grandfather. He blamed the people who were supporting Muawiyah. And then his death came, his deadline came, and now he is hostage by his actions and his zulm. After that power reached my father Yazid. He was not suitable, he was not qualified for Khilafah, and he did what he liked, and he disregarded boundaries of Allah and did greatest injustice to the children of the Prophet. But his governance didn't last too long. Now he is also hostage for what he did. Then he started crying very loud. And then he said, "Oh people, I'm not going to accept the chain of your sins to be put on my neck. You can choose whom you like. I have removed my bay'ah from you and I leave Khilafah. Marwan ibn Hakam, that very vicious person, was very close, sitting next to the Khalifa, Muawiyah ibn Yazid ibn Muawiyah. Marwan said, this is not right, and started to refute what he said and defend Muawiyah and Yazid, etc. But then he addressed Marwan with strong voice and with power. He said, go away from me. You want to deceive me. I have not tasted sweetness of your Khilafah, so that now, because of sweetness of power, I would accept the sins which are associated with this. If Khilafah was beneficial, unfortunately my father only achieved sins from this. And if Khilafah is not beneficial and it's going to lead to misfortune, what my father has achieved is enough. His mother was, I will talk about his mother, wife of Yazid, was sitting next to Minbar and said, I wish when you were just a piece of, like a clot of blood, you were not born. You died and you were not born. And he said, you said something very good. I wish I was not continuing to grow as an embryo and then be born and have a father like Yazid. So he came down from Minbar, went to a room and stayed in that room till he died. So Umayyads realized that this is the power of a good teacher. Who was the good teacher? Umar al-Maqsus. So they went after him and they started digging a hole and put the teacher in the hole and buried him alive. Why you have taught him these things? Look at the power of a good teacher. A good teacher can make the son of Yazid, grandson of Muawiyah, so noble, so brave, that can stand against everything, can push aside power, money, position, all kinds of pleasure that he could get. So we need to find good teachers for ourselves and for our students, good educators, good environments, good schools. The second practical tip is that in this period, when we teach them religion, we should put very strong emphasis on teaching ma'rifah of imams, and in particular ma'rifah of imam of our time. Knowing imamah, especially imamah of Amirul Mu'mineen, which is the beginning, which is the foundation. If that is well established and proved, then other imams come very logically after that, and in particular they should know more about Imam Mahdi Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. maybe the first three Imams that they need to know more about is Imam Ali, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and Imam Mahdi. Then gradually other Imams also must be known, in details. Knowing the names and some biographical can be from very young age, even the first 7 years. But as subject of a study, so they need to know all Imams, but in particular they need to know more about Imam Ali, Imam Hussein, and Imam Mahdi al-Jalal ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Even some people have said that maybe 50% of their Islamic education should go to knowing Imams and Ahlul Bayt and Imam Ali, Imam Hussein, and Imam Mahdi al-Jalal ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. I don't want to fix percentage, but this is very important part of our Aqidah. Tawheed, Nubuwwah, Ma'ad, Imamah, they are all connected. But if we don't bring Imamah, our understanding is not complete. Allah said, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum on the day of Qadir. وَأَتْمَمْتُ عَلَيْكُمْ نِعْمَتِي وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. And when it comes to knowing Imams, they need to know about the position of Imamah and characteristics of Imam, their spiritual, ethical characteristics, their achievements in their life, their services. These are very important things to know. The third thing which is very important in this second 7 years is to emphasize on Salat. A very important part of Quranic Tarbiyah, prophetic Tarbiyah, Alawite Tarbiyah, Husseini Tarbiyah, Mahdawi Tarbiyah is to consider Salat as pillar of our life. As-salatu amududdin. Salat is the pillar of faith, so it has to be pillar of our life. Because faith is the way of life. If Salat is amududdin, so it has to be amudul hayat. So if we manage to develop love for Salat and habit of saying Salat on time in our children, in the second 7 years, that will be great achievement, and it helps a lot with respect to other things. Imam Mahdi al-Jalal ta'ala Farajahu Sharif himself, according to what Sheikh Saduq in Kamaluddin quotes, said, فَمَا أَرْغَمَ أَنْفَ الشَّيْطَانِ أَفْضَلُ مِنَ الصَّلَاةِ. Nothing like Salat has defeated Shaitan. Salat is very important. And it is important to start from year 7, and by the year 9, they should make a habit of saying Salat, even if it is not yet wajib for boys. Some important things that you can do to make Salat pillar of their life. Number one, maybe I mention only because I noticed the time is over, so maybe I mention 1, 2, and we'll continue in the next session. Number one, we should make a beautiful environment around Salat, starting with good place for saying Salat at home, providing them with beautiful prayer mats, for girls beautiful chador, or abaya for salat. For boys, maybe special, you know, prayer mat, maybe a ring, maybe some special dress for that they use it for salat, for example. Maybe a small above this outfit for them when they want to say prayer. Maybe a small ring, maybe some perfume. So the surrounding of prayer, well, if there is musalla at home, that would be great. And then buy for them some gifts to show appreciation of their regular performance of salat. So these are the things that can make a culture of salat at home and family. And then in home and in school, the place for prayer can be beautified by putting some good calligraphy, maybe not in the face, but for example behind, something um, on the boards, on the wall, some writing, some hadith, some stories. So we need to use in a very wise way all opportunities which are there to give direct and indirect messages. Sometimes indirect can be more useful, but direct also are important. Unfortunately, sometimes we see the place for salat in a school, in madrasa, is not the best place available. Maybe they keep good places for classrooms or offices. They say salat is just for a few minutes. This is wrong. Salat has to be performed, if not in the best place, in one of the best places, in the school, in madrasa, in the centers, in organizations. In some offices they have a place for prayer. Sometimes it is in a good place, sometimes they put in the basement, near, I don't know, a storage. This is not right. Salat is the place that we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to be putting this in a very high position. Inshallah, in the next session we will continue with this topic, and we will mention other aspects of Tarbiyah in the second 7 years. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and our children, generation after generation, to be true and honest believers, to be lovers of the prophets and imams, and in particular to be lovers of Imam of our time. May Allah inshallah give shifa to all people who are ill. May Allah grant hajat of mu'mineen and mu'minat. May Allah make life of people easy for them. And may Allah inshallah send rahmah and maghfirah to all mu'mineen and mu'minat who have passed away, especially those who have rights upon us. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.